On behalf of the Christian Kingdom College, we're going to have a welcome to our friend from San Diego, California, Dr. Dwayne Gish. And we're going to have a special program dealing with creation and evolution. And Dr. Gish, you're a defender of the faith and a friend of truth, and you have been for a long time through your illustrious and through your legitimate career. And we want to make you welcome today for the debate with Dr. Piglucci on the 20th of this month. And we also want to make you welcome at the Church of Jesus Christ at Mountain View.
Thank you, thank you.
What got you started into this illustrious career of defending the faith?
Well, you know, Charles, I've always been a creationist. I accepted the Lord when I was 10 years old. And I've never found a single word in the Bible about evolution, nothing there. And what I do read in the Bible is that God created the heavens and the earth. He created each basic kind of plant and animal, and He created Adam and Eve in a very special way. When I entered into my graduate studies at University of California at Berkeley in biochemistry, as I discovered the incredible complexity of life, as you see the way everything in that living cell has to be put together precisely. You see the evidence of a master plan, and you discern the purposefulness in every detail of its structure and function. I concluded quite scientifically that this incredible complexity required an intelligent creator. The evidence of a master plan would speak of a master planner, and the fact that there's purpose there in every detail of its structure and function would require intelligent creation. So what I learned through my graduate studies and research strengthened my confidence in the fact of creation. Then one day somebody handed me a little booklet entitled Evolution Science Falsely So Called. That's when I was on the staff of the virus laboratory at Berkeley after I'd been at Cornell Medical College.
Dr. Hooper?
No, this little booklet did not have the author's name on it. But it was a marvelous summary of the scientific evidence supporting creation and exposing fallacies and weaknesses in evolution theory. And it was very exciting to me to see this additional evidence, the evidence from the fossil record, the laws of thermodynamics and things like that. And so I began to do some speaking on the subject. And then I left Berkeley and I went to the Upjohn Company in Kalamazoo, Michigan, a pharmaceutical company, where I was on their research staff, and I met other creation scientists there. And it was in 1963 that 10 of us met in Michigan and formed the Creation Research Society. And Dr. Henry Morris, who was then chairman of the Civil Engineering Department of Virginia Polytechnic Institute, he and I were on the executive board of the Creation Research Society. So I found out then, through this association, that he left his position with 27 professors under him to go to California to help found a Christian college and this research institute. And very few months after that, the Lord, I believe, spoke to me very definitely. That is, He was indicating that I should leave my position at the Upjohn Company and join with Dr. Morris in this research institute. So I left my position with the Upjohn Company in 1971, the fall of 1971, joined with Dr. Morris in this research institute. And I've been there now almost 28 years.
Wow. And you've been a debater of over 300 approximately debates with evolutionists.
Yes, almost 300, most of them in the United States, but in other countries such as England and Australia and places like that. I've also engaged in debates in those other places. So it's been pretty close to 300 debates.
We're talking about cosmogony and the origin of life, the origin of matter, the origin of the human race. And do you believe that how a person feels about their origin determines their attitude, their actions, their interpersonal relationships? And would there be any connection between what we're seeing among young people today, since creation is no longer even referred to in government schools, and violent behavior and interaction?
I think definitely there is. 60 years ago, when I was a child, I never heard of anybody who used drugs. Never even heard of such a thing. Today we have this rampant drug culture that is literally destroying the body, the souls, the body, minds, and the very souls of millions of people. We have legalized pornography. We have legalized abortion. We have all this crime and this violence that we've never heard of before. And I think there's a definite connection. Now, I'm not saying that all the blame can be placed on the theory of evolution, but I believe the main reason that we've seen these changes in our society is that our judges, our educators, our legislators, our teachers, the leaders in our society have been indoctrinated in evolution theory, which is a philosophy. It's a non-theistic religion, really, and their decisions are guided by this philosophy, this belief. You know, we had, for 200 years, our country had laws against abortion. We had laws against pornography. And now today, the judges of our Supreme Court have said that these laws are unconstitutional. Well, has our Constitution changed? No, it hasn't changed. What has changed has been the thinking of these judges, you see. And as a result of what our courts have done, they've taken the Bible, they've taken prayer out of the schools, and it's almost, you know, our Constitution guarantees freedom of religion. But what they're telling us today is freedom from religion. They're trying to tell us that the Constitution demands freedom from religion. And it's not what the Constitution says at all.
Evolution is a humanistic, materialistic development only. It denies the soul, it denies judgment, it denies accountability to a creator. We even have religious leaders and preachers who believe in theistic evolution.
That's right. It's right. It's in the schools, the so-called Christian schools. You know, when our young people today are sitting in the classrooms and the professors and teachers are telling them that everything began with a Big Bang. Now, the only thing that came out of this hypothetical Big Bang was hydrogen and helium gases. That's all. And everything in this entire universe supposedly evolved from these primitive gases. So if this is true, then we can say that we've gone from hydrogen gas to people. When the students are sitting there and they're taught that, they say, well, who needs God?
Yeah, dumb, purposeless, random chance.
We don't need God.
Right.
We're all the result of this naturalistic process, starting with hydrogen gas, you see. And so they say, well, there is no God. Now, if there's no God, they say, there is no one to whom I am responsible. I'm only responsible to myself.
Right.
And that is the philosophy, you see, that governs the lives of so many of these young people. But once they know, once they are taught, once they learn that there's a God who's the creator of all things, they realize that God is the Lord and Master of all that He has created. And there is a relationship between the created and the Creator, and God controls our destiny. So it is a vitally important subject.
They're governed in by moral law as well as physical law.
Absolutely.
So then the Scopes trial in what, 1925?
1925.
The Scopes trial thrust evolution, creation into the limelight. And creationists began to be on the defensive after that trial. Of course, evolution was new and novel. Now, however, we have evolutionists on the defensive. They've been taking a real thrashing lately. For instance, we have the Washington Times that is more of a creationist newspaper. In fact, we'll have a Washington Times newspaper interviewing you this coming Friday. Then we have the Washington Post that is evolution. In fact, they won't even receive correspondence regarding creation. They don't even want to put it in their paper. They're so frightened of the subject. And in fact, your opponent, Dr. Piglucci, says that the cards are stacked against him. So now they're making apologies that at one time they thought they had creation on the run. Now it looks like the tables have turned on them. The Washington Post, by the way, at one time actually featured one of your debates in 1981.
Yes, it did.
With Dr. Doolittle at Liberty University, and that Dr. Doolittle admitted his defeat.
Well, the headline says, how am I going to face my wife? That was quoting Dr. Doolittle following the debate.
Right. Now, we can see now that since that time, not only are evolutionists taking a sound thrashing in debate, but they're afraid to debate. For instance, this debate we're having at the Church of Christ at Mountain View. We've been trying to get a debater for 20 years, and no one would accept the challenge. We finally got a challenge after you and Dr. Piglucci decided to debate. A man wrote into the Winchester Star, well, if I had known you were looking for a debater, I would gladly have debated. Well, we tracked the man down, found out it was a 17-year-old boy. And it's like Isaiah said, your princes are your rulers, and they're young people, they're babies, they're students, you know. They have no rulers among them that are competent enough to be able to take on an opponent of your stature. What has happened in the last so many years that the tide has turned so greatly?
Well, evolutionists would be very reluctant to admit this is so, but it is certainly true. As you have mentioned, it's very difficult to find someone who is willing to debate a well-informed creation scientist. Now, they have all kinds of excuses why that is so, but there's only one reason, I believe, that they're reluctant to do this, is that they find it very difficult to defend their case for evolution against an informed creation scientist. If they, as they claimed, if they had all the scientific evidence on their side, and the creationists are just religious people, they should go on a public platform and blow us right out of the lecture hall. That simply does not happen. Now, when I debate on the university campus, or as I will here, I will not mention the book of Genesis, I will not mention the Bible. I stick strictly to science. It's usually the evolutionist who wants to go into attacking the Bible or discuss philosophy.
And he's supposed to be a scientist.
Stick strictly to science. Now, if they had the science on their side, there should be no contest. They should win the debates. Now, I would not claim that I have ever won a debate, but the evolutionists themselves have said in newspaper interviews and science journals that the creationists have won almost every debate. Now, why is this so? Well, the only reason it's so is because we have the truth on our side. As I've often said, it certainly makes it much easier in a debate if you have the truth on your side.
Exactly.
And we have the truth on our side.
I was talking about the Washington Post. They have a science report about every month or so. And if it's empirical science, you know, it's readable, but many times it's evolutionary.
Yes.
And they're talking about the deuterium, you know, it used to be carbon-14 and the disintegration of matter and how long it takes and so forth, trying to calculate the 270 million years of history or the 270 million years of human life. And Into the Heart of the Big Bang is the title of this one here. And now the Washington Post, they have interviews. 92% of the people in America believe that there is a God. 85% believe that God created man. 85% also believe in a personal devil and a judgment to come. And Stephen Jay Gould, who is probably the high priest of evolutionists today, now that Sagan is dead, he said, you know, he's lamenting the fact, after all these years of teaching evolution in public schools, 85% of the people in America still believe in creation. And so the readership of the Washington Post then, if it's empirical science, they may have reporting the news maybe 92%. Maybe if it's interpreting the news, 50%. But their readership of their cartoons or lampoons of so-called science and evolution is down to about 8 or 9%. So they're out of touch with the people of America when it comes to science.
Yes, that is true. Another illustration of that fact is that the NBC Associated Press poll taken some years ago asked the American people, would you first like to have both creation and evolution taught in schools? Or secondly, would you like to have creation only taught? Or thirdly, would you like to have only evolution taught? 78% of the people who responded, they like to have the evidence for both creation and evolution taught.
Which is close to my statistics.
That's right. 10% said they wanted the evidence only for creation taught, and 8% said they wanted the evidence for evolution only to be taught.
Only 8%.
Another 6% had no opinion.
Yeah.
That means there's 88% of the American people who wants creation taught in our public schools. 8% wants evolution only. What is taught in the public schools in the United States, mainly, not exclusively, evolution only.
Wow.
You see, it's because evolution control our educational system. They control our mass media, the newspapers, television, the people who, the publishers, the editors, the reporters, almost all of them are evolutionists. And they are, as one survey showed, as I remember, almost 90% never went to church, and of any kind.
Yes.
The leaders
That's right.
in television and radio and
That's right.
newspapers. And so it's controlled by those kind of people. Our science journals are controlled by evolutionists. The educational establishment is controlled by evolutionists. And that's why they take that approach.
So they're trying to cram it down the throat.
That's right.
A theory, unproven theory.
That's right.
Not empirical science, but just theory.
Yes.
And they've been lamentable failures over the years.
I corresponded or called on the telephone, I forget now which, one of the editors of a leading science journal. I asked her, I says, I would like to submit an article supporting the creation position. Will you publish it? She said, no, we won't. And when Stephen Jay Gould published an article in Discover a number of years ago, supporting evolution and attacking the creationists, including me personally, I asked the editor, I said, I would like to publish an article of equal length in response. Will you publish it? And he said, no, I won't publish it. He said, I will allow you to write a one-page letter to the editor, which I did. But that's the only, you see, and you see what goes into our science journals must pass 3 referees and the editor, and they're evolutionists. And if you submit anything that challenges the validity of evolution theory or supports creation, they won't publish it. They reject it, you see. And then they turn around and say, see, you people don't publish in our standard journals. Well, of course we don't.
Now, they're masters of deceit. Now, Satan is an eternal opportunist. And, of course, Satan is the father of all lies.
Yes.
And
Christ himself
you would have
said
to, right, you would have to classify evolution as one of the biggest lies ever told. If it were told based upon the believability of the people, it would not be as great a lie. But the fact that it's boastfully spoken from the lectern and the platform of many of our universities and schools, it is a big lie. But Satan, being an opportunist, can see that on scientific grounds, I guess he's tired of seeing evolution taking such a beating. Do you believe that the New Age movement and now the new Oriental mysticism, that is also a form of evolution, cosmological cyclical time, and also the idea of the abstract, that creation is not important because in our determined mind, we're able to, in our ID, we're able to meditate the universe into existence. Do you believe that this is also another subtle form of philosophical evolution that we have to deal with?
Well, that is definitely true. You see, more and more scientists and others are realizing there has to be something behind this universe. They say there's something. So but they will not allow themselves to come face to face to a personal creator, a personal God. So some have even said, well, the earth is alive, or the universe is alive. And they have these all various kinds of ideas. We call it the New Age movement. They're going into this New Age movement. And so I think Satan is using this, you see, to steer them away from, to confront the living God, the creator of the universe, steers them off in this New Age stuff. It's a little easier for them to believe. It's a little easier for them to accept. They don't have to really change their lifestyles, you see, which they'd have to do if they brought themselves in obedience to God and our Lord Jesus Christ. And so they go off into that. And Satan is just leading leading them the way. I'm reminded of what Christ said when he cast out the devils. It said that they could sweep out the room and clean it all up, but then they can come right back in. It's a worse state than they were before. And that's the way these people are. Yeah. They're drawn off into something that, well, it gives them a sort of a sense of believing, a sort of sense, well, I know there's something out there, you know, but that draws them away from facing the living God, our Creator.
And it's something like the Greek philosophers that they had an academic intellectualism.
Yes.
But they were illusionists. They believed everything was illusionary.
Yes.
And if there was a beginning or an ending, no one knows.
Yes.
And it comes right back down again to the fact of that we have no identification with reality, no identification with a God. Mm-hmm. Therefore, children are in a vacuum.
Yes. You know, someone has said that nature abhors a vacuum. If there's nothing there, something will come in and fill it up. And that's the way with our young people today. They're getting no spiritual training. The parents give them nothing that way. And they have all these comforts. They have a car to drive. They have stereos and TV and expensive clothes, and they can run around and go to the movies and all this sort of thing. But spiritually, they're empty. And so either some pseudoscience or pseudo-religion comes in to fill up that vacuum, or they do what is happening today. Someone will just go out and kill a dozen people just so
to get attention,
to do something.
Yeah.
To do something.
Yeah. You've been a very driving force in the creation realm. Your motivation certainly has to be your love of God and truth.
The bottom line of this work is bringing people to Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I mean, to win an academic debate, in some circumstances is important, but that's not the important thing here. We can use an academic debate, we can use scientific evidence to point to the truth of God as Creator, to let people know that yes, God is true, the Bible is true, and to bring them to that. But just to win an academic debate is not important.
Well, you're going to leave behind a great legacy. You're 60, or are you 70 now?
A little bit older than that.
Is that right? You mind if I tell the people here how old
78.
you are? Isn't that amazing? 78 years of age. And
I think I'm lying when I say that, because I just don't believe I could possibly be that old.
Yes, you don't look that old, nor do you act that old. And you've been a driving force, 300 debates. Debates take a lot out of you, I know from experience.
You're under pressure, you're under tension, and they do drain you, yes.
And you've had 4 bypass. You had an operation.
Four-way bypass, yes.
And you've just been able to come snap back and as strong probably now as you were before.
Oh yes, even stronger now than I was before.
You're just a testimony to your God. How long do you think you can go on at this pace?
I think when I get to be 80, I'll ask for early retirement.
Well, there's an old saying that in the work that we do for Christ, we don't become millionaires, but the retirement benefits are terrific.
They're just out of this world.
How would you like to sum up what you have to say as far as, the second law and so forth? Scientists are saying the second law, we shouldn't use it anymore, no one knows anything about it, but is it that they're afraid of that argument, like the old mousetrap, it's just a little plate and a wire spring on it, but it keeps catching mice, doesn't it?
Sure does. This second law of thermodynamics is absolutely fatal to the theory of evolution. Just as the major features of the fossil record are absolutely, I say, not only contradictory, they are incompatible with the theory of evolution. We can know, based upon natural laws and natural processes now operating, this universe could not have created itself naturally. Life could never have arisen spontaneously on this planet. They could not have created themselves naturally. They had to be created supernaturally. That's the only other possibility.
Right, and the fossil record, you've made reference to that again and again. These are the milestones in the success of creation arguments.
Yes, and when we compare the theories on the origin of life to the laws of probability, that also shows that that is not possible. Thermodynamics shows it's not possible. The fossil record shows that indeed it has not happened.
So we'll be looking forward to hearing you. And wherever you're at, I would say to those watching in, wherever Dr. Gish is at, it'd be worth your while to drive. However many miles it is to get there, to hear this man. He's making history for Christ. He's making history for truth, empirical science as opposed to pseudoscience. He is being used mightily, and through his books and through his works, we know that our children will have a legacy, and our children's children. One more thought I want to share with you before we close, and that is, what is the future of creation science?
Well, I can see only a good future. We would like to have creation science taught in the public schools. Of course, we can't take the Bible into the public schools, unfortunately, but we can take the scientific evidence in there. It can be done, but we're fighting the establishment. I think that would be, if we could get the evidence for creation into the public schools, that would be a tremendous help, because that's where most of our students are. We'd like to have them all in Christian schools, but most of them are in the public schools. That's what we need to reach out in that way. And we're starting a distance learning program and things like that. There's many other things we can do using the modern techniques of communication that we have today.
Fantastic. May God bless you. Dwayne Gish from the Institute for Creation Research. God bless you as you go with God.
Well, thank you.
Been good having you. Amen.